Hey everybody, Nate here from WASD20. Welcome back. Today, a little D&D Short Swords for you. If you don't know what D&D Short Swords are, they are short, sharp, and pointed tips for your tabletop role-playing games. Little things to inspire you and challenge you for both DMs and players alike. And today's works especially well for both DMs and players because it's all about how players can be a part of world building in addition to the DM. For some of you, that's a no-brainer. Players and DMs are involved, and that's just the way that you've always gamed. But for some of you, that might be sort of a new thing, where in the traditional model, you assume the DM is this kind of this all-powerful, all-knowing being who's a little bit detached and aloof, and that was the original way that D&D was played. But, we're starting to get different styles of play, and one possible style of play is for you to ask your players to actually get involved in some of the world building here. So let's talk about a couple ways this can practically be done. First off, outside the game, it's great when DMs ask their players questions about their characters, right? About their backstory. And that can, create some little story hooks and things that you can kind of say, okay, I can work with this, right? So tell me, do you have any siblings? So tell me, did you have a love interest? Tell me about your family life. Tell me about what some of your hopes, dreams, and fears are. And that sort of thing, right? And that's very personal, and that's great. I highly encourage it. But what if, and this is kind of a stylistic choice, you were to get a little bigger than that? What if you were to ask your player, tell me about the tavern that your player or your character used to work in. Tell me about the town they used to live in. Let's, go ahead, create a town, right? And what if you were to give your players that sort of agency to just create a town? And that might be a little scary for some of you. It might be a little challenging. You might not be entirely comfortable with it, or you just might say, no, that's not for me. To some extent, you obviously have to be able to trust your players here to come up with something that you think fits with the theme of the campaign and the world, right? And that's an important part of it. So players, prove yourself trustworthy and don't come up with ridiculous stuff, right? But players do step up to the plate and ask your DM and try to maybe push them a little bit and challenge them to the extent that you think they're comfortable with it. Hey, can I flesh this out a little bit? And yeah, I think that's great too. So players, you might have to test the waters a little bit here with your DM to see how comfortable they are with this. Personally, I'm not very good at this. I'm not. This is not my strength. I have friends who are much better at it than I am. Just the last game in the Dragon Grin campaign, Dragon Grin Epitaph, which you should check out. I'll put a link in the description below. Great campaign. It's run by Tim from Tabletop Terrors. And he asked me before the game, a few days before, he said, Nate, I want you to think about a hero from Lightfall, this great event in Dragon Grin, and not so great event maybe. And I want you to think of a hero from Lightfall, and I think your character Garrick is going to maybe find a remnant or a reminder or a relic from this hero, and they're going to recognize it as someone they've heard stories about, right? And it was a really cool thing where I got to create this hero, and then I got to find something toward the end of the game, and it was really cool, and I'm excited to see kind of where that goes from here, if that's going to become, I don't know, how that will be worked into the story, or how this item, it was actually like a hook, will be used. I don't know. So that was something that's really cool, and I've had DMs that do this really well. I've done it a little bit when I have a player, for example, I had a player last year who played a Dragonborn, and I hadn't had any Dragonborn in my world. I knew that the Dragonborn were from this certain island in Inshar, but I didn't know much about them, and so me and this player kind of developed that together. And, oh, your player's a paladin, your character's a paladin, too, so now tell me about their deity. And we can work on this together, and we gave that deity a name, and we came up with this whole culture of the Dragonborn who worship this dragon deity and all this stuff, right? So it worked out really well. Get your players involved. Likewise, you can do this if you're comfortable as a player kind of pushing the boundaries. And so maybe you just on the fly narrate something, and I did this once, and this was just a very minor thing, but again, for me it was a step, but like, I'm trying something new here. And it was just, I think it was when we were fighting some trolls in one of the Provokers games, Erdon, we realized that, oh, they're not being damaged by this, they're regenerating, and so Erdon, remembered, and he had heard stories that fire would have an effect, and so he had a little bit of pitch in a pouch from a certain tree in the Shade Vale that he rubbed on his arrow before firing it and lit it. And this is what, I came up with this thing that the wood elves of Shade Vale had used when they wanted to light a flaming arrow, right? And it was just something very minor, but for me it was a step, right? Because I wasn't used to playing that way. And I had come up with something that, this is what the elves of Shade Vale do. And Matt was totally cool with it, of course, because he's just a really open and improvisational DM. So it was great. Likewise, I see Tim doing this. I see Matt doing this a lot. I remember Matt with Barker once. Barker is very comfortable with this style of play. Barker from Be a Better Game Master. At one point Matt asked him, you see an old commanding officer of yours in the distance. What's his name? I would have been like, oh no, right? Especially we're playing live in front of, 50, 100 people. I don't know. And I get super nervous about something like that. But Barker, man, he thrives in that situation. He comes up with a name. He comes up with a backstory just like that, a history of, bad blood that he has with this person. And it was awesome. I love that. Barker also, you should check out his, on Be a Better Game Master, The Winds of Sir Celine. And on his channel, he does this all the time in his games, where he's just asking players, hey, you're walking into a town. What is the dominant race in this town? Oh, you see a symbol. It's a lycanthrope. What kind of lycanthrope is it? And, just really on the spot, on the fly, asking things of his players, and then him adapting. It's really cool to see. It's not everyone's style, and I understand that, and I'm not there yet to that style either. I don't know if I ever will be. I don't know if that's my preferred style, but it's really fun to watch, and I think it's really great. So I encourage you to try it out. Get your players involved in the world building, whether that's in an improvisational manner or whether that's planned out ahead of time before the game, and players, test the waters with that. And try to step up to the plate a little bit and help your DM with some world building. Show that you are invested in the world as well. All right, that's all from this one. I would love to hear from you, everybody. Leave your comments down below. How have you done this in the past? What's that sweet spot that you are comfortable with in terms of players helping to world build? And if you enjoyed this one, everybody, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can find some ways to do that down in the description below. And everybody take care. You'll see me again very soon.